guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of The Bells by Dhonielle Clayton. I did receive an advanced reader copy of this book from the publisher, but this review was not sponsored and I was not paid in any way. So The Bells is the first book in a YA fantasy series. It takes place in a sort of French-inspired society, and it follows our main character of Camille, and she is a belle. In this world, everyone is born basically gray, like grayscale, and described as very ugly, and the bells are the only ones that are born beautiful because they have been bestowed with this gift from the goddess of beauty, and so their blood holds magical ability to be able to transform people in any way. So they can change their ages and make people more ageless, younger. They can de-age their organs even. They can change anything about their body, hair length, texture, eye color, skin color, the shape of their waist, the shape of everything they can change from the ground up, and they can also change things about their personalities to make them a little less quick to anger, make them more charismatic, whatever. And Camille wants to be the favorite belle, so her and her sisters, even though they're not technically sisters, are all raised separately in kind of like a belle's boarding house, and when they become of age, they go to the palace, compete, and show off their abilities in like a one-night thing for showing off their belle abilities, and then one of them gets to be the favorite and she gets to serve the royalty, and the rest of them get dispersed out to very affluent tea houses within the main city where they get to help nobles and everything else. So the story starts with that competition about to begin, and everything kind of goes from there. So first off, I'm going to talk about the world building. This world very much feels like the capital in the Hunger Games. If you're spending your entire time in the capital with their crazy beauty trends and with all the things that they like can do and how extravagant everything is, that is what this world is. There are, like, one of the things that I can describe about even the writing is that there's a lot of lists in here that are employed to just show like how extravagant everything is. They have little teacup, like very small animals, so like some of the characters that are nobility carry around little small elephants and little small lions and stuff like that, and there's a ton of food that's talked about, and just the very, very extreme beauty norms and beauty ideals. People bring their children in to get changed. You change on a whim. The princess is somebody who changes her look every single day. There's just a crazy amount of excess, and that's really what this world is all about. Next, I'm going to talk about our characters. Our main character of Camille is a character who starts out as very stubborn and ambitious and impulsive, and I liked that about her. But the thing is, she doesn't really improve much or learn about that throughout the story, so towards the end and even the middle, after a little while, you just start to feel like, okay, now she's just being naive. Like, now she's starting to get a little bit annoying because there's these things, there's like a ton of court intrigue in this, right? Like, she is surrounded by the nobility and all of these people, and there's all this mystery. She was raised secluded from everybody, so she doesn't know the full extent of everything that's going on, and she's very ignorant of a lot of things, but she just isn't really learning at a rate that you would think that she would, and she continues to make mistakes that feel a little like simple, like you shouldn't really, like, what are you doing? There's a lot of times that I was just like wanted to shake her because it's like, you like need to be smarter than this, and like, what are you doing? So that was a little bit annoying because I really didn't feel like her character developed that much. You kind of get told that she's developing and that she's learning, but she's really not, and she continues to make these really poor decisions in a world that is so dangerous and so volatile and so politically volatile, and she continues to do things just based around her ambition or her selfishness or whatever, and doesn't really learn a lot, and I was hoping and expecting her to learn more than she did throughout the story. Some of the characters can also feel a bit two-dimensional. Camille feels like that sometimes, but some of the other characters also feel like that. You just, again, get told a lot of things about them without actually feeling that about them. There is this bond between her and one of her sisters, and even that feels a little bit two-dimensional because you get told how close they are, but then you don't really get shown how close they are. If anything, you get a lot more of this like mean girl plot between them, competitiveness between them, which is understandable, but I also wanted to see those elements of closeness with them. And there are some other like side characters that just feel a little more predictable and a little more two-dimensional. I will say that the villains in here are pretty bad and pretty villainous. They do have, again, some of their like mustache twirling moments where you're like, what is your motivation? But at the same time, because it is sort of like the capital in the Hunger Games, you're just like, this is just kind of how these people are. Like, they've just been raised in this kind kind of world that of course would turn them a little bit monstrous. But there are a few characters that I feel like were a little bit one-dimensional, a little bit kind of see-through, in that you felt like they were going to be a like archetype or a trope, and they were kind of fulfilling those tropes, and that's what they end up doing, and that was a little bit annoying for me because I wanted a little more out of them. I do want to address a couple of triggers within this series. So of course there is the trigger of just body issues in general. If you have a history of like body dysmorphia, any kind of eating disorder, or anything like that, they are talking about really changing people's bodies, or talking about, you know, eating too much, then being able to like change their bodies through like a painful process, which is what the Bells kind of do, and that I think would be triggering to a lot of people. So if you have any kind of like body image sensitivity, then I would definitely think twice before reading this. There's also some elements of sexual assault in here that could be very triggering to some people, and there is the kill your gaze trope in here, as people have talked about before about this. I know there's some people that are very angry about that trope, and I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. So there is that element with a side character. I do want to mention that there is some fluid sexuality with all of these characters, that the character wasn't killed because of their sexuality, and that the character that ended up doing the killing or making sure that that happened is also a queer character themselves. It's been referenced with other characters of the same gender, so there's a lot of elements with that, but I did want to warn people of that if they aren't aware of that and they never are okay with that trope. That's a trope that I myself am not sensitive to, that doesn't bother me in particular. I am sick of seeing it just as a trope sometimes, but with this it didn't particularly bother me, and I am somebody who identifies as on the LGBT spectrum, just so you know. Lastly, let me talk about the plot. I found this very fast-paced and easy to read. Like, I just couldn't put it down for some reason. I read this in maybe like 2 or 3 days, and it's a fairly chunky book. It's one of those books that like the writing isn't super complex or anything, so you just kind of like fly through it, and there is this political intrigue where you just want to know what's going to happen next. You just want to know if they're going to figure it out. You just kind of want to see what's going to happen. But I did find that some of the twists and things were a little bit predictable. I was hoping that what I was predicting would kind of get spun on its head, or it wasn't going in the direction I thought it was going, and I would just be kind of fooled. But ultimately there were a lot of twists that I kind of felt like I saw coming. So there's some twists and some character motivation type twists that I think were a little bit simple and were not what I was hoping for with this. I wanted it to be a little bit more elevated than it ended up being with some of those plot things. But again, like, so easy to read. I just inhaled this. So overall, I'm not sure yet if I'm going to continue on with the series. I can see myself kind of deciding once the synopsis for the next book comes out in the series, because I could kind of go either way. I adore Dhonielle Clayton. I saw her speak just this last weekend at an event, and I love basically everything that she has to say. So that has me a little bit conflicted more than anything else, because I just love what she was talking about and all of the ideas that have gone into this and stuff. But as far as the execution of this one, I found some elements really great and some a little more lackluster. So I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. Exactly down the middle. So comment below, let me know what you thought of the Bells. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!